These students at Harare's University of Zimbabwe say they won't attend classes until President Robert Mugabe quits.
Until Robert Mugabe resigns, we are not going to write an exam. No one is going to write an exam. This university is going to be declared closed until Robert Mugabe comes to a point, comes to his senses, where students are saying, Robert Mugabe is over. We want a new president.
Zimbabweans watched their TVs on Sunday waiting for Mugabe to resign, but that never happened.
We want to make sure that he lives now. We want to see his back now. Mugabe, your rule is over. The emperor has no clothes.
Mugabe has enjoyed widespread political support for nearly 4 decades, but economic failures have collapsed his popularity, leading to his removal as ZANU-PF chairman on Sunday. His move to take away lands from white farmers led to chronic food shortages and spiraling inflation in the early 2000s. By 2010, international sanctions and Mugabe's threats to seize foreigners' assets caused international investments to nosedive. And more recently, he shut down dozens of mining companies, causing job losses and a drop in the country's exports. Impeachment proceedings are expected to start on Tuesday when the parliament meets. Zimbabweans are hoping for a quick and peaceful resolution to get their economy back on track. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Agnes Gitau is a partner at consultants GBS Africa, an African boutique advisory firm that advises on Africa's political and investment risks. And she joins me now from London. Agnes, great to have you on Money Talks once again. Let's start on the street, as it were. How are ordinary Zimbabweans coping with the lack of currency? They've been using dollars, but they're dwindling, aren't they?
It's been chaotic across Zimbabwe, and this has become worse since 2013, you know. So what has happened, the lack of currency has made, you know, has promoted black market and illegal trading, which has been absolutely very hard for ordinary Zimbabweans to trade and do business. So it has, the economy is at a bleak, and this is not just, it's been ongoing for the last, say, 10 years, and it gets worse by day, unfortunately.
I was reading a report earlier that some people have resorted to trading in Bitcoin, which has actually boosted the share of the price of Bitcoin to $13,000 in Zimbabwe. Assuming that Emmerson Mnangagwa eventually does take over, which we don't know, of course, at this point, what changes in economic policy do you think we would see with Zimbabwe under him?
Under, you know, I'll be cautious, you know, with my optimism. You know, he's been part of ZANU-PF regime. You know, he's been the establishment, part of the security establishment that has made Mugabe remain in power, protected Mugabe. So as much as there is excitement on the ground, I will remain absolutely cautious as to what Emmerson Mnangagwa will bring to Zimbabwe. But it will certainly be dependent on the sort of policies he's held to be pro-business. Back in 1980s, he was really the favored guy by the British government to lead Zimbabwe. But it's, you know, it's a wait and see, unfortunately. You're absolutely right. You know, Bitcoin, which has been followed by mostly Zimbabweans in the diaspora who were scared that, you know, that by currency will not be effective in Zimbabwe. So that's promoted, you know, Bitcoin being at this rate at the moment is at 13,500, which is absolutely high compared to the rate of around $8,000.
Agnes, what are the chances of Morgan Tsvangirai making a comeback? And if he does, how would the economic picture look different from what you've just described under Mr. Mnangagwa?
You see, back in 2013, when they had a coalition government, both the MDC and ZANU-PF together, we saw some improvement in the economy. So if there is a possibility of a coalition government, we are likely to see some improvement. I am hopeful if that happens, we'll see some improvement in Zim's economy. I know MDC have been very much focused on promoting the agriculture, building an infrastructure, and also they were famously known that that, you know, you spend what you have, you know, ensuring that government did not overspend on public services or paying corrupt leaders. So it would be, probably that would be the only better solution to come out of this if there is a coalition. I doubted whether Zimbabweans will vote for Morgan Tsvangirai, but that would be the best option for me right now.
Agnes, let me rewind the clock back to the 1990s when the World Bank and the IMF stepped in. Who do you blame for the economic crisis that Zimbabwe is facing at the moment? Is it Robert Mugabe's own management? Is it the World Bank IMF formula, which required privatizations and massive cutbacks in public expenditure? Who do you blame for the crisis that we have at the moment?
Answer, you know, like in every African country, there's such strong external interference, vested interest from both the World Bank and IMF. Of course, they laid out, and the whole of Africa was going through structural adjustment. It wasn't just in Zimbabwe, but I would go back, the 90s, the 2000s, when he applied the land reforms. Everybody blamed Mugabe for what he did, but forgetting that there was an agreement between Mugabe and the British government. And the British government failed in their part to honor their commitment to ensuring that the fund, you know, the fund that they had promised was being paid. So everybody blamed Mugabe for the crisis, but I would like to say that we need to look around and look at those powerful external interests that have caused and have sat on the sideline, seeing Zimbabwe go into a crisis. It's not just only one man's problem. It has been caused by not only him, but all external. The people we call in Africa developmental partners, they have been part of Zimbabwe's problem, unfortunately.
Right. So let me ask you this then, Agnes. I mean, whatever happens on the political side in Zimbabwe, any recovery that Zimbabwe has got to have the input of foreign countries. So how does Zimbabwe avoid the mistakes of the past, like what you've just described?
You know, there are two things that they need to realize, that for the economy or for the country to move forward, they need to carry everybody, every Zimbabwean together with them. Okay, it's not just a select few like we saw, the people who benefited, even in the crisis, were the political elites. They also need to reassure investors. You know, the economy is bleak, the outlook looks bleak. You know, job and unemployment levels of over 90%, inflation over 200%. So they need to build the structure. So I'll say back to basics. You know, what works for, and I know they have, it's called ZimSet. It's something they established back, it was an economic vision for Zimbabwe. They established back in 2013. So they go back to that basics, saying, look, what do we have and how can we attract FDI to the country? And I think that would be a starting point. But going back to the basic, understanding what they want and moving forward with that.
Okay. Agnes, we are out of time, but great having you on Money Talks, as always. Agnes Gitau, GBS Africa in London. Thank you.